In the hardest moments, creativity becomes more than expression. It becomes a way to stay alive. I'm going to tell you a story about a girl. She found herself in a world that no longer felt real. Noise everywhere, and people running in every direction, searching for something they could not name. Above her, the sky was torn apart with bombs and gunfire. Around her, buildings were collapsing, as if the ground itself had decided to give up. And there she was, her backpack on her shoulders, walking through the chaos, searching for her family. She left behind her home, her city, the place where she grew up, and with it, every corner filled with memories that once felt eternal. And she kept moving into the unknown, carrying not just her backpack, but everything she had lost along the way, and an entire city that no longer fit inside the world. This girl stands here in this stage in front of you to talk about how art and written words can be a form of resilience. I didn't choose to become strong. Strength chose me. I come from a place where the sky is seldom blue. Sometimes it's filled with smoke, where the nights are not always quiet. Sometimes they scream. I come from Gaza, and there, life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It throws you into the storm and watches what you become. Before the war, I had dreams. I would study the connection between nutrition and mental health and work closely with people in one-on-one sessions and hopefully, one day, open my own clinic. We had better life, friends, school, dreams. My house was near the sea, so I would walk with my cousins into the beach while drinking tea in the fresh air with a backdrop of a happy freshman. It was my favorite time. But suddenly, everything turned upside down. Dreams disappeared along with the home that birthed them. And I had to leave my whole life behind to survive. And I remember that day. It was my 7th day as an undergraduate student. My bag was filled with books and my lab coat, but I emptied it to replace them with clothes to evacuate. After a 1 week of displacement, I lost my brother. I didn't know who's gonna be beside me, believing me, cheering me on to achieve more in life, because he's not here anymore. Me and my family didn't have the space or the time to grieve. We had to bury our feelings and keep moving to stay alive. And then, when I arrived in Egypt, I was shocked. The buildings, the noise, the life. I had forgotten what normal looked like. And that somehow scared me more than the chaos that I came from. But there was something inside me. There was something inside me refused to give up. A voice said, "You're not done yet." So, I chose not to give up. I started drawing. I just poured everything I felt into my art. Every silent scream, every memory, every loss. And that helped me to process what I have been through. The researchers like Bessel van der Kolk has shown that our emotions not always processed by words, sometimes through images and sensations. And that's exactly what I was doing. Creativity helped me to process my feelings and heal it. And then I tried to find another quiet way to survive, another quiet way to breathe. So I started writing, not by escaping the reality, but by facing it on paper. I wrote without planning, without thinking too much. I just wrote. Days passed, and pages kept growing until one day I paused and I looked back. It wasn't just a story, it was a novel, a full novel, carrying my journey, my memories, my feelings, and everything I had lost. As I once wrote in it, we're now living on the fragments of memories, and maybe that's exactly what I was doing. Gather those fragments together before they disappear. I didn't know if it is good or if it makes sense, so I decided something I had never done before. I shared it. I shared it with a Syrian writer, just to hear an honest opinion. And I remember the feeling of waiting, not for praise, but for honesty, when he responded. I didn't read your words, I saw them. There was a voice inside what you wrote, a true one. And I realized something. Maybe this is the first time I allowed myself to understand that this wasn't just an escape, maybe it was something more. And I learned something. Sometimes we discover ourselves when life is not going well, when we're trying to survive, when we're trying to find a way forward, but instead we find a way inward. And then life started testing me in a more quieter, heavier way. I returned to rebuild my future. I was applying for different scholarships, different programs in different countries. And I remember I waited with full hope. This time it will work, it must work, but it didn't. Rejection after rejection. At this time, there was something started to fade inside me. There was something started to fade inside me, and I felt like I don't want to try anymore. I don't want to study anymore. Like, I felt my dreams is not mine anymore. As if the life is moving forward and I'm standing still in a version of my life that I didn't recognize. Then, in September 2024, I got my visa to Canada. I felt like it would be certainty, but it wasn't. Me and my sister were moving to a new culture, new language, everything unfamiliar, and I know my chance to study still weak, and I might face another year of waiting, but I refuse to give up. So I hold on to what I love to do to survive. And I chose to become lost in something I loved. So I returned to draw. And I taught myself oil painting. And in 2 months, I created more than 15 paintings. And that made me to realize that maybe I can launch a small project. So I did. I launched a small project in Ottawa. It began small, then it grew. Orders, exhibitions. People started to see my work, and I started to see the light again. When words failed me, art spoken. Through colors and lines, I told stories. I could not say it out loud. With every word I chose, every color I chose, and every line I drew, I was putting a piece of myself back together. Then, as I was rebuilding myself, I heard about University of Alberta and a scholarship I could apply for. So I said, okay, this is my chance. So I restarted studying English. It was a long journey, 7 months, 7 attempts, failures. I was falling and standing again, falling and standing again and again, till one day, finally, the last attempt that was swallowed with darkness, the hope I was hauled into wasn't in vain. I remember that day. It was July 25th last year when I received my acceptance letter from University of Alberta. And I was shocked. My sister was congratulating me, and I was asking her, is this real? I remembered every moment I almost gave up, every time I felt like it is the end, but it wasn't. That voice inside me that kept saying, don't give up, more often than not, that voice was the truth. Because deep inside, I knew I was going to make it. And here I am, at the University of Alberta, on TEDx stage, a place I didn't even imagine I could reach. What I have learned from this journey is this: sometimes the way forward isn't something you find, it is something you create. When everything around you is taken, your home, your city, your dreams, the sense of who you are, create something. Because this is the beginning of the way to reach the light. Yes, sometimes it takes patience. And sometimes life just wants you to give up, but keep going. For that seed inside you that is still waiting for its chance to grow, that is still waiting for its chance to see the light. Thank you.